Well, hi guys, I'm John Ritland, and here is another retro review, this time of TNA Final Resolution 2005. It had its good moments, it had its moments that have not aged all that well, had a lot of messy booking, a lot of interference spots and everything, but still, I was enjoying TNA Impact Wrestling, the TV product and the pay-per-view product a lot more than WWE at this point. Things just felt a little more innovative. Sure, some things are overbooked, not everything worked, but I was enjoying Impact Wrestling a whole lot more. That being said, the main event was kinda shit. Why? I'll get into that here in just a little bit. I do miss the old school, the old TNA pay-per-view intros, the voiceover and everything, the deep voice, the guy talking about like all the, the epic feel of these pay-per-views. And it was pretty cool. We have Mike Tenay and Don West running down the card, and we get Shane Douglas interviewing Jeff Jarrett, hyping up the main event, and Jeff Jarrett stroking his own ego. Have fun on seeing that. We get Matt Bentley, who was actually Michael Shane. It really was weird how they made him change his name. WWE made him change his name. Kazarian and Christopher Daniels, two-thirds of the future SCU, against three live crew. That was Ron the Truth Killings, Conan, and BG James, aka Road Dogg. Typical match, not really all that much really to talk about here. The heel team, Daniels' team, got some good heat and everything, beating up, BG James, stuff like that. Getting some good spots and getting the crowd all angry. And in the end, Ron Killings hits a big old high kick, 1, 2, 3, and Michael Shane gets pinned. Okay, cool, whatever. I mean, it wasn't bad. Never really cared for the three live crew, but they all looked like they were having fun. We then get the first of a few backstage things with Dusty being the director of authority and trying to get, an assistant. So it was either going to be Trinity, Tracy Brooks, or Johnny Fairplay. Johnny Fairplay, if you don't Google him, he just, ridiculous, that he was ever involved in wrestling. Whether he liked it or not, he just never belonged there. And we get Trinity and Tracy Brooks trying to basically, become Dusty's assistant. And they had to go search for a clue in his hat. That was literally all it was, and this went across multiple segments. We then get Eli Skipper versus Sanjay Dutt. Now, Daniels and Skipper used to be part of Triple X. And then at Turning Point the month prior to this pay-per-view, they lost a losing team must split up match against AMW in a steel cage match. A great steel cage match where Skipper did the tightrope walk across the top of the cage. And it was a great moment. Dutt, got some shots in here. Skipper a lot more heelish and would end up hitting a variation of the primetime slam to get the victory. Good, solid X Division match. Crowd was pretty hyped. Good stuff. I enjoyed this. I thought this was pretty good. We then get a Triton vignette. Remember that? The whole, he's coming, all that. And he was really tall and muscular and did not last very long. They hyped him up from here to like Slammiversary. I think he showed up and he was around a little bit. He showed up in a couple other matches and was gone, I think, by later 05. I don't know what the deal was, but it was just bizarre. We then get DDP and Nash talking about, talking strategy, about the three-way last man standing match that's going to happen a little bit later. And then we get Dustin and Kid Cash video package for that. Dustin Rhodes and Kid Cash, by the way, they have a match. Cash does feign a knee injury during that because he had feuded with Dusty Rhodes a little bit. So naturally, Dustin stepping in. We had this contest going, and Cash took advantage after feigning that knee injury, which was obviously a fake. And Dustin ended up eventually hitting the running bulldog after a lot of like stalling and everything. 1, 2, 3, not bad, not great, but a fine mix of like two guys that had some years of in-ring experience. Dustin obviously more than Kid Cash, but Kid Cash was no slouch. Not bad, but not great. Simple story here. We then get a video package for the Monty Brown DDP, Kevin Nash, build and all that stuff and everything. And I'll explain the rules here a little bit later. Not a bad video package. Then we get DDP, Eric Watts, and Raven video package because DDP and Raven had their feud. Eric Watts and DDP had apparently had a friendship, and then Raven's like, I got Eric Watts wrapped around my finger, and then he said that on like a recent episode of Impact before this, and then Watts beat him up. I believe that Eric Watts is going through some very personal, issues at this time. So the match wasn't all that good, and I hope that whatever issues happened with him at this time, he got those addressed. Because you could tell something was very, very off about him. Raven was very safe with him. The match wasn't bad, but Eric Watts is one of those like second-generation talents where it just never worked out. He could never live up to be Bill Watts, and he was also pushed way too soon in WCW and got hammered for it, and just bounced around from company to company since then. It had a couple decent moments. There was a nice spot involving the chair where Raven would always use it to do the drop toe hold, and Eric Watts sprung off it to hit a move. It wasn't bad, but just wasn't great. Eric Watts would win with the choke slam, and then Raven would try to apologize to him. They'd brawl. He'd hit him with a trash can, knock him off the stage, and Raven got cheered. Raven was the heel in this, and that just shows how little the crowd cared about Eric Watts. Match was okay. We then get Jeff Hardy versus Scott Hall. Piper as the Roddy Piper, that is, as the special guest referee. It was supposed to be a Falls Count Anywhere match. This did not go anywhere except in the ring. Well, there was a couple points where like it went outside for like a second, but it wasn't like any pinfalls were attempted on the outside. Scott Hall was not in the right place. Roddy Piper would leave soon after this to go back to WWE, and Jeff Hardy, his issues were well known at this time, and it just wasn't working. It was a lot of antics of like Scott Hall getting various foreign objects taken out of his pockets, that is, and so because he's had a lot of law troubles. So let's make a comment on, on commentary and say, he's been in this position before where he's been frisked and everything and gotten weapons off of him. That's good and timely, but whatever. Commentary said way worse things. There was no chemistry. Piper did get bumped a little bit, but because he's a wrestler, he was able to stand back up a lot quicker. And a horrible twist of fate, and then the Swanton 1, 2, 3. Then Abyss attacks Jeff Hardy. Okay, we started that program, which actually wasn't that bad. It was probably Jeff's best program in the year that he was in, in this year that he was in Impact Wrestling, because he wasn't seen after Genesis 05. Oh boy. And he made a return for 3 years in WWE, and then had a better run-ish in Impact a little bit later. So, okay, we then get DDP, Monty Brown, and Kevin Nash. Last Man Standing, number 1 contenders match. Okay, Last Man Standing, you're thinking, okay, triple threat, Last Man Standing, pinfall submission, or, by knockout, stuff like that. Nope. Pinfall submission, or you go over the top rope to the floor. That is not how a last man standing match works, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Nash did stall quite a bit. Eventually, he would get chucked over the top rope, so he wouldn't, take a pinfall. He wouldn't really do a job, but he would get eliminated. And then later, after an attempt at the Diamond Cutter, Monty Brown hits the Pounce 1, 2, 3. In case you wonder why I'm kind of, blitzing through this pay-per-view, it's not that the matches were bad. It's just that none of them were like, holy crap, I gotta sit here and watch this. The pay-per-view could have easily, right now, if this pay-per-view took place, it'd be a little weird, but it would be barely like, an above average television show. Because so many of these matches were like messy and stuff like that. It just, I don't know. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't. It hasn't aged that well. There was a show of respect between DDP and Monty Brown. Cool. Okay, we have that. Team Canada, which was a young Bobby Roode, Bob Roode, Robert Roode, and Eric Young with Coach Scott D'Amore, who is currently, I believe he's back working with Impact and has been for a couple years now, versus AMW, not the root beer. James Storm and Chris Harris. TNA tag title match, or NWA tag title match. This was terrific. These two teams always had amazing chemistry, always worked well. Sure, Scott D'Amore's antics could get a little bit annoying, and the constant interference from Team Canada did get a little bit, tired, but it also still worked pretty well. It was a brawl early on. D'Amore did make his, presence known with his usual antics. There was a lot of, Storm getting beat up for a while. Harris would eventually get tagged. Scott D'Amore got handcuffed to the Ultimate X structure that would come into play a little bit later, because that would be the next match. Johnny Devine, who's part of Team Canada, used a hockey stick. There was a whole big old schmod, boom, 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 a bunch of near falls. Oh, the faces are going to win. No, they're going to lose. They're going to win. They're going to lose. Oh, and then we get another hockey stick thing, but Harris dodges. And then we get this one point where Eric Young's trying to get the chair, but Devine thinks it's one of AMW. So he hits the chair behind him, knocks out Eric Young. He gets rolled up, devastating roll up, 1, 2, 3, and AMW becomes, I believe, 5-time NWA Tag Team Champions. And this was their second to last run, or second to last reign with the titles, because I think they would lose them to Cash in Dallas, and then they would win them from the Naturals just before Bound for Glory 05, and then hold them until they lost them to Styles and Daniels a little bit later, if I recall. And they would split up sometime after that. Well, Styles and Daniels would, but then AMW. But anyway, a lot of splitting up of tag teams in that year. This was fine. This was really, really good. I liked it. Yeah, sure, okay. The antics did get a little over the top and a little bit much. But it was still a well-told tag match. Maybe it went on a little long, but I still liked it. We then get Dusty Rhodes talking to Trinity and Tracy because they beat up Johnny Fairplay. and they found this clue, this paper that had the word clue on it. So they ripped it in half. So one had the CL, one had the UE, not the Undisputed Era. And then Dusty says, okay, how about this? You two, got the clue. Each got half of a clue. You get a Team Tracy, you get a Team Trandy. And they can't have competed in Impact Wrestling. And then, whoever wins gets to be my assistant. I don't think this lasted very long because Dusty was on WWE TV by like 06. So this didn't last very long. But if you don't know, actually they would bring the Harris brothers out of retirement and they would feud with a team called Phi Delta Slam, which was two big guys that had like almost what sounded like bullfrogs farting for their theme. These matches sucked. They were goddamn awful. Terrible. They were really, really terrible. Mainly because the Harris brothers could never really wrestle at all. And oh yeah, have certain tattoos of a certain, period in Germany that they would much rather forget. Swastikas is what I'm saying. Styles versus Petey Williams versus Chris Sabin. X Division title Ultimate X match. Great. Flippy shit, spot fest, but fun. D'Amore did, since Petey Williams was part of Team Canada, was making his presence known. Petey Williams eventually, was upset. He was upset because D'Amore got kicked out. So, okay, Petey Williams had to go it alone. Styles did this weird, insane thing where he got drop kicked from Sabin springing off the ropes. Styles just does this flip thing and just lands badly. A lot of cool spots in this. I guarantee this match you will not regret seeing. Going out of your way to see. Sabin and Williams are fighting over the titles in the Ultimate X match, which is like, a partition where there's like, a structure and ropes are crossing in an X and then the title's hanging in the middle. So they're fighting up there and then Styles jumps off the rope, steals the title, so he gets that. And then he drops it to Christopher Daniels a couple months later, I believe at Destination X. This was a good match. I really enjoyed this. Then we get Jeff Jarrett versus Monty Brown NWA title. Since Monty Brown had won the earlier three-way, this match wasn't good because Monty Brown should have won the title a few weeks ago on Fox Sports Net, a few weeks before this, but he didn't. They overbooked it like insanely, even though they were trying to make Monty look strong and it took everything Jarrett had to take him down. This is, if you've seen one Jeff Jarrett match, you've seen them all. Yeah, they brawled in the crowd. Monty did keep Nosa and a whole lot of stuff and coming back, but eventually would fall to 3 strokes, a low blow, and ref bumps and that kind of stuff. Is a big old schmoz. And what happened is Jeff Jarrett would win. This is where fans were really starting to get tired of Jeff Jarrett. And then when he lost the title to Styles, cool. Then Raven, won it. That was Hard Justice 05. Then Raven won it at Slammiversary and then dropped it back to Jeff Jarrett just before Spike TV. Jarrett would then lose it to Rhino, win it back, and then lose it to Christian Cage, and then win it back at Slammiversary 06. The crowd was done by that point. And then Jarrett would leave right after Bound for Glory 06 to take care of his, now unfortunately deceased wife, Jill. And now he's married to Karen Jarrett. But anyway, this pay-per-view was okay. The Ultimate X match was pretty good. The tag title match was pretty good. But other than that, really not a whole lot to this. Not a whole lot that you couldn't probably just see on Impact Plus. You don't need to go out of your way to get this DVD. But anyway, it was fine. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.